Okay, this morning we're going to start talking about Chapter 22, and this is about our fungi, the ones that are important because they can cause issues for us as humans. The most widely distributed are the molds and yeast, and we find them absolutely everywhere. But humans are relatively resistant, and the fungi are usually relatively non-pathogenic. There are over 100,000 species of fungi, but only 300 are linked to diseases in animals. They, however, are the most common plant pathogens. Now, a fungal infection in a human is called a mycosis, and those are caused by true fungal pathogens and opportunistic pathogens. And the fungal pathogens, we have it broken down in this table to the primary true pathogens. And you see one of the things as far as habitat that you see in almost every one of these is soil. You also have pathogens that have intermediate virulence. And you see the dermatophytes, the ones that are various ringworms that are on human skin and again in the soil. And then the pathogens, the secondary opportunistic pathogens that you see here, you see the Candida albicans, Aspergillus, and then note at the bottom that it tells us that to name these specific mycotic infections, you add mycosis or iasis or osis to the generic name, and you can look above and see that. Now, looking at the true or primary fungal pathogen, they can invade and grow in a healthy, non-compromised host. There's a small number that have the adaptations they need to survive and grow in the human body, where there's low oxygen and high temperature. But what really strikes us about these true pathogens is that they can switch from hyphal cells, which you find in the mold phase, to the yeast cells that you find in the parasitic phase. And this is called thermal dimorphism. They can grow as molds at 30 degrees Celsius and as yeast at 37 degrees Celsius. So it's difficult to get rid of them. Now, here you're seeing a systems profile of the fungal pathogens. Note on this meningitis, that's something that we often worry about. Also, here you see the ringworm and the thrush, and again the meningitis and the ocular infections. Now, the opportunistic fungal pathogen has very little or no virulence. They are able to cause problems because the host defenses are impaired. And this is an emerging medical concern because they can vary from being just a superficial issue to something potentially fatal that's systemic. And these account for 10% of our nosocomial infections. And here you can see a comparison. The middle column is the true pathogenic infections, and then the opportunistic pathogens are in the last column. You see the degree of virulence in a true pathogenic infection is well developed, but it's limited in the opportunistic. And oftentimes, if you look at the primary portal of entry, it's respiratory. There are conditions that predispose patients to opportunistic fungi, and they're listed here. Antibiotic use, diabetes, burns, drug use, cancer, those kinds of things. Now, looking at the epidemiology of the mycosis, most of the fungal pathogens don't have to have a host to complete their life cycle, but their infections are non-communicable. But the dermatophyte or dermaphytes and the Candida species, they already inhabit our body and they are transmissible. And the dermaphytosis, this is most prevalent. And you find that the true fungal pathogens are going to be distributed in a particular geographical pattern. And you can see that here more looking at a map of the world. Now, as far as the pathogenesis, the portal of entry for the primary mycosis, again, this is going to be inhaled spores, so it's respiratory. Subcutaneous portal of entry is usually when you have a trauma to your skin. And then the cutaneous and superficial is just contamination on your skin surface. And again, the virulence factors, thermal dimorphism, toxic-like substances, capsules, adhesion factors, hydrolytic enzymes, and inflammatory stimulants. Now, as far as the host having defenses against these fungi, the integrity of the skin, the mucous membranes, the respiratory cilia, cell-mediated immunity, phagocytosis, inflammation, those are all important. Which phase of a fungal life cycle is best adapted to growing in a host body? Think about the temperature. The yeast.